All righty, welcome to a brand new Flyers Daily for the 20th of June, 2025. Flyers Daily, as usual, presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Fix my collar. I'm a little messed up here. There we go. Anyway, this is the day that could have been the last day of the 24-25 season had the Stanley Cup Final gone to 7 games, which obviously it did not. So it ended the other night on Tuesday. Couple of things. We're going to get into our Flyers exit day interview series conversation with Flyers defenseman Jamie Drysdale. Very important player for this team going forward. But I want to expound on a couple of things before we get to Jamie. First and foremost, the Cup Final. Florida obviously goes back-to-back. They go to 3 Cups in a row. They win 2 of them. Where do they stack up? Really, since the turn of the century, 21st century teams, when you look at the teams that won multiple Cups, whether that's Pittsburgh, who won in 2009, then the back-to-back Cups in the later 2000 teens, I think it was 16 and 17. You can look at, 3 Cups for them, 3 for the Chicago Blackhawks in 10, 13, and 15. You can look at the LA Kings, who won multiple Cups in 2012 and 14. And you can obviously look at the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. Where do they kind of stack up? I mean, the freshness of what Florida did to Edmonton the past 2 years in the frontal lobe of our brain says, maybe they're the best team since the turn of the century. And they very well may be. They may be the deepest team. To me, it's the way they win, that they make teams look like they're a hot mess. Like they made Edmonton look like a hot mess at points, where Edmonton looks like they're scrambling to get out of their own zone. They can't maintain possession in the offensive zone. They get hemmed in, and the forecheck and creates incredible zone time. It looks like Florida's winning every race to every loose puck and winning every 50-50 battle. And it looks that way because that's what's happening. They just come at you in so many waves and are structured and disciplined so well that they just make a team that's really good look really pedestrian. And they did that against the Edmonton Oilers the last 2 years. They did it once they woke up a little bit in their series against Toronto. It's just an unbelievable team. And the biggest thing that I take away from it, 2 things. Number one is the way they were built. There's not many guys that Florida drafted that are part of that team. Now, there's some really key guys in Barkov and Ekblad. But, I mean, they get Bobrovsky. He's obviously a big part of it. That's via free agency after Bob decided to leave Columbus and become a free agent after the Flyers traded him to Columbus back in 2012, which obviously I know still haunts everybody, self-included. You can look at the waiver wire pickups, Forsling. You can look at the elevation of players like Carter Verhaeghe. I mean, really, it comes down to one thing. They did a lot of things prior to what they did 3 summers ago when they traded a guy who basically was a Hart finalist in Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar to Calgary for Matthew Tkachuk and extended him to that huge deal. And Matthew Tkachuk changed everything. Is Matthew Tkachuk the best player in the world? No, he's not. The best player in the world was on the other side, and Connor McDavid, who had some interesting things to say yesterday. But what Matthew Tkachuk brought was an identity, a bond. And if there's one thing that you learn from this is that there's a lot of different ways to build a winner. But a big element of building a winner is finding a centerpiece that's a winner, like Matthew Tkachuk. I'm not saying Connor McDavid's not a winner. He hasn't won yet on the biggest stage. Barkov wasn't a winner until he was. Ekblad wasn't a winner until he was. Look at the effect of Matthew Tkachuk on Sam Bennett. It's insane. That team has such an identity that stems mostly from him. I'm not saying it's just him. I think he brought elements of other players' off-ice personality out of them because of the way he is. And so that's number one on how you can build a team and how you build a winner. And look, you can spread a lot of money around in Florida and have much more depth than Edmonton has when you're not paying guys like McDavid and Drysdale so much percentage of the cap. That's number one. Number two, the thing you heard when the cup was handed out and the interview processes began, whether it was with Darren Pang, whether it was with Jackie Redmond, one of my favorites, or whoever doing post Stanley Cup interviews, the one thing you heard through and throughout from every player to executive to coach was about the culture. And we've talked about culture here. Now, look, culture doesn't mean anything if you don't have talent. It doesn't. You need talent to win. But if you've got talent, you've got to have culture if you want to win. I know people say, oh, culture, smulcher. I think a lot of those people that say culture is totally overrated in team sports are people that never played team sports. It is not overrated. Matter of fact, if anything, I think it's underrated how much it means. It means everything. Guys on that Florida Panthers team are not playing for themselves. They're playing for themselves, of course, but they're playing for that guy next to them. They're playing for the guys in that locker room. They're playing for the pride that goes with that. And when you saw Barkov hand off the cup as the captain, and all the guys that never won a cup, that weren't there for the cup last year, get the cup first, that is very telling to me about their culture. And it's why Brad Marchand came down and fit in beautifully. It's why a guy like Sam Bennett can flourish the way he does. And it's why the trade and acquisition to get Matthew Tkachuk. And again, Bill Zito, this took a lot of guts to make this move. We all liked Matthew Tkachuk in Calgary, but he was trading a guy that was a tremendous player in Jonathan Huberdeau and a good defenseman in Mackenzie Weegar for him. But he did it, and it changed everything for the Florida Panthers. Are they a dynasty? We'll save that debate for another day. Back-to-back cups to me does not get to dynasty. In our modern sports world, the closest thing we've seen to dynasty in hockey has been Chicago, who won 3 cups in essentially 5 years. That's about it. You got to win one more. Doesn't have to be next year. You can not win next year and then go back and win again after that. Then maybe we'll be talking about dynasty. I hold dynasty in a little different regard. And Matthew Tkachuk said that to Darren Pang after the game, we're a dynasty. Well, they're a confident group. It was a tremendous final, even though it only went 6. And right away, as soon as the cup is handed out, I have the feeling of, first of all, incredible jealousy that comes over me, that a city's getting to bask in that cup glory. And it's not you guys, myself, and Flyer fans. It's another team. And I get this morose sort of mentality of, oh, now we're not in hockey season. We are not in hockey season. It is hockey off season. There is no game scheduled for this week, next week, the week after that. Yeah, we've got the draft next week, which is incredibly exciting. Flyers have a ton of picks, 7 picks in the top 50. We've got what's hopefully a very exciting free agency period and a very important offseason for the Flyers. But it's hockey off season. Game's not on the ice. I'll be ticking down the days until it is. Like I know a lot of you will. A lot of people are like-minded with me on that one. There was some rumors out there yesterday. Apparently they're confirmed. I just haven't seen a release, as I check my email one more time here, from the Flyers that Todd Reardon will join the Flyers coaching staff along with Rick Tocchet, that he'll coach the D and the PK. He's coached with Rick Tocchet before in Pittsburgh. He's coached, obviously, was a head coach in Washington. So once we get official word from the organization on that, we'll get Todd on the show as well to talk about his new role with the Philadelphia Flyers, if he is indeed, that is confirmed. This comes from good reporting. Anthony Sanfilippo, Frank Saravalli reported. I trust their reporting. But until it's officially official, we'll hold off here on Flyers Daily. So the cup is over, and we enter this period of silly season, and probably a good time to stay off social media. And I see people reacting, well, if reports are true, or if this or that, and like reacting to it like it is true. I mean, I get people want to talk about the team and all that, and I do too. But just reacting to every report as if it's gospel to me is silly. It's one of those silly things to do. But look, I understand some people have more time on their hands and they can do that, and that's cool. And I understand people want to consume that sometimes, and that's cool. Just not for me. All right, let's get to our feature conversation. Flyers exit day interviews. Today, it's with a very important piece. Obviously, a part of that Cutter Gauthier deal with Anaheim. And the Cutter Gauthier game in Philadelphia against Anaheim in January was probably the highlight of the season for the Flyers. It was a great night. Fans were treating Jamie Drysdale, who is now 23 years of age. I think he turned 23 just before we taped this interview, as a matter of fact, on April 8th. So he's a young 23 and 72 days. He's a first-round selection. He was taken out, oddly enough, 6th overall by the Anaheim Ducks in the 2020 NHL entry draft. He's got 217 games under his belt at this point. He played in 70 this past season. He had 7 goals, 13 assists, 20 points, and played a career-high 1955. Actually, he played more than that in Anaheim. No, we don't count that. It was only one game. 1955 in ice time. And he's a guy that's going to be a real important piece for this Flyers. I think we saw, especially in the second half of the season, some real glimpses of the player he can be consistently and what he can bring to the table. It's just an elite skater, and I think perhaps rushed to the NHL a little too early at 18 years of age, and then 19 years old, playing 81 games and almost 20 minutes a night in Anaheim was probably not the best way to develop Jamie Drysdale, but he's starting to turn that corner. Going to be a big season for him coming up. He'll reflect on his past season, what's to come for Jamie Drysdale, and much more. Here's our Flyers Exit Day conversation with Jamie Drysdale. Special edition of Flyers Daily, Flyers Exit Day, our interview and conversation series. And joining us right now is one of the really good storylines from this past season, the growth of Jamie Drysdale. It sounds like a movie title, doesn't it?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it does. Do you feel that growth as you reflect here? And it's immediately after the season, obviously, when we're speaking, but do you feel that?
Yeah, I think, again, there's a lot of ups and downs in the season. I think, I analyze it pretty, I don't know, maybe game by game. But, a lot of ups and downs. But I think I was able to kind of get my game to a place where, I'm not going to say I was happy with it, but just to a place where there was comfortability and where I felt like I was like, okay, I can play this game and have an impact. And definitely a lot of growth, and I don't want to dwell on it, but to be honest, last few games not my best, but I think just knowing where my game can be and where I can be as a player, and as well as with a lot of growth that I know I can put into my game.
It's almost like you set a baseline and now you can push it, right?
Yeah.
To the next level, knowing that baseline, feeling confident in that baseline to push it to the next level, play even freer.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think when I had my best games is when I was, playing free, playing forward. I've kind of this might not come out the way that I wanted to, but just across the board, I feel like when I'm skating forwards, most of the time, defending, playing on offense, that was when I was playing my best games.
Yeah.
Just trying to kill plays before they developed and things like that. So, like you said, baseline, but a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, the anticipating plays to move forward on it instead of that retreating kind of
definitely
way of defending.
Yeah.
With your skating, that makes all the sense in the world, because that skating is such a big part, such a tool that you have. Yeah. And a lot of guys can skate, but they don't know what to do with that skating ability. You know what to do with it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely room for improvement there too. I am confident in my skating ability, and I think it's just for me figuring out how to maximize the abilities that I have and put to use, and I think I can definitely be much more consistent in doing that. Just kind of finding that sweet spot. Definitely positives to take away. In saying that, I'm looking forward to working on my game a lot this summer.
What does that look like for you as you self-reflect on this past season? And talking to Brad Shaw a couple of weeks ago, he had mentioned you're a guy that has a lot of self-accountability. You don't have to preach that to Jamie.
Yeah.
Sometimes to a point where he wants you to do a little bit less of that. But as you reflect on the season, you go into the summer, what are the key areas of focus for you?
Yeah, I would say things that, well, Shazi and I have talked about, the biggest one he said with me since game one of the season is awareness. That's something that is easier to develop in game scenarios, and I think it has developed throughout the season. Aside from that, I think it's, I'd say, kind of building a little bit of a defer less mindset. I found myself in that position a few
The young
times.
guy, that's hard though.
Yeah, but in saying that, I don't. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it before, but the young guy, like technically, if you really think about it, I know I've said this is kind of my second full year, but in saying that, I've also been around the league. Would be going into my 6th year next year.
Yeah.
So I just think it's about time, to be honest. So yeah, I think kind of building that mindset, and then in saying that, finding shot lanes from the point. I think I have the ability to create it. It's just getting that lane, getting a little more zip on my shot. Be a threat from back there. You see guys kind of, they have respect back there, but it's because they're a threat to do multiple different things when they get the puck. So
Be a difference maker.
exactly. So
Shit, I love that you said that. It's about time.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, there's just such a big mental aspect to this game.
100%. I think that's kind of the biggest, honestly, one of the biggest thing I've learned from this year, and honestly, just through the injury stuff that I've gone through. I'm not going to dwell on that, but I think the mental side of this game, from what I've seen, is I'd honestly put it probably 50-50 with the skill and the other side of the game. So if you're in the right headspace and have the right mentality, I think you can be real effective.
Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality, right?
Yeah. There's definitely it's little things like that for sure that play a role, and I think I've learned that if you don't have a good mindset, it really hits you hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. You go into the season, you had surgery last year. That'll just change the way you deal with an off season so much. Comparatively speaking, as you sit here now, going into this off season, how different will not having that be for you?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's just the part of last year. I went home for 7 days, and then I was back here April 27th.
Getting cut.
Got surgery, and then was right back here
Rehab.
the next day, rehabbing throughout the whole summer, and that was tough summer, tough rehab process. But yeah, no, definitely a little bit freer. Going to take some time, just mental reset, see my family back home, friends, just be in a comfortable area and space, and get back to work and really focus on specific details of my game that will allow me to be more effective.
Will you watch the playoffs?
Yeah.
You love hockey.
Yeah.
When you watch it, do you look at it and go, first of all, we want to be there because of the mayhem of it, right? But do you watch certain guys and go, I could put a twist of that in my game?
Yeah, no, I try and watch. Yeah, I definitely.
Who are the guys?
I mean, it's the standard, typical, but
Carter.
honestly, it's guys like that you focus on specifically, but it's also little plays that I think, it's funny because realistically I'll probably watch with my buddies or whatnot, but they're watching the highlight reel, this, that, and it's just different how you view the game, where you see a D go back and make a nice little outlet touch pass to the middle, easy breakout, and you're like, little things like that are appreciated on the ice as the team. Things like that, or just how you create space on the blue line, just seams, plays that you are available, options that might be there. Yeah. Just little things in that. It's interesting kind of watching as a fan perspective and then versus trying to get stuff out of it. Yeah,
I know some guys, like, when the season's over, and if you're not in the playoffs, they want no part of watching it because but I think it's good to watch it. And I think you can learn even more. And plus, you got buddies that are playing and stuff, which is cool to see. And you want good things for them as well. My wish for you is to have a really good summer.
Thank you.
Have a great summer. Enjoy it. I think next year the ascension begins. Yeah. And you're a big part of that. And I'm so happy for you with how your season went. I think you're one of those big storylines of this year as a huge positive for this team moving forward. So with that said, enjoy your summer, and we'll be talking again in the fall. We'll be here before you know it.
Absolutely.
But enjoy the training and all that goes with it and the downtime. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great to catch up with Jamie Drysdale. Hope he has a great summer of training, not rehabbing. Such a huge difference for the player. We appreciate him taking the time. I appreciate you taking the time. Monday, it'll be a Mondays with Meltzer episode, draft week. We'll dive into it with Bill Meltzer coming up on Monday's edition of Flyers Daily. Have a great weekend.